Welcome to Threads of Gold. Today's guests are the founders of the nonprofit organization Keeping a Light for Callie. They are both authors, they are childhood cancer advocates, and they are parents. They are a couple of the most precious people I've ever met. Thank you for joining us, and please welcome Haley and Justin Dickens. Welcome, Haley and Justin, to Threads of Gold, and thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Dane.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Uh, um, Bill and I always say that y'all have a very special place in our hearts. Your family has touched us in such a powerful way. And so it's a real treat for me to be able to talk to you about Callie, about your organization, about the books you've written, about all of it, and about Cora, and just everything. We've known each other since 2022 now, and all of that happened because of Callie. So I think we should start by talking about Callie and just your life with her, short as it may have been, what a great impact she had on your life. So I don't know which one of you wants to start and tell us the story just a little bit.
She's the better storyteller, so I'll let her take the lead.
Well, sometimes I get a little lengthy because even though her life was short, it was packed. We had struggled with infertility. I'll try and make this as in a nutshell as I can. Struggled with infertility for several years. We had two miscarriages. On the morning of my first miscarriage, my 22-year-old sister was in a car accident and passed away. Second miscarriage came a year and a half later, and we could kind of just feel our hearts opening to adoption. Kind of started looking into agencies, just seeing what that looked like, started getting all of our paperwork together and whatnot. We signed up with an adoption agency in April of 2017. And by the end of June, we knew that Callie was going to be ours just within a couple of weeks. She was actually born in Florida, so we took off from Louisiana to Florida to wait for her to be born, and she was in our arms within 2 hours of her birth. Shortly after that, the classic story people tell you when you have infertility with no real pinpoint answer why. We got pregnant with her little sister Cora. We told my parents about Cora in January of 2019, and a week later, my dad told me that he had terminal liver cancer. He passed away 6 weeks before Cora was born. And then she came into our lives, and we kind of felt, even though we had suffered a lot of losses, we feel like we were finally that family that we had been wanting. We were going to try and make the best of everything, and just live to make my dad and my sister proud. We had Cora and Callie for about 2 years, a little less than 2 years healthy. And in June of 2021, Callie kind of had cold-like symptoms for a week, seemed real kind of tired, but would go in and out. And then the weekend before we took her to the hospital, she was vomiting, had a fever. We kind of thought, oh, she had a cold. Now she's got a stomach virus, but she never would just completely recover. So Monday, we took her to the doctor, who sent us to the ER. And that evening in the children's hospital, we learned that she most likely was, had a brain tumor.
But at the time, you didn't know it was DMG. Just
No, ma'am. They had actually discussed that it was potentially an aneurysm versus a tumor. Which one do you want? Half a dozen in one hand, six in the other. Neither were good. So we spent that night in ICU. She had an MRI on the next afternoon, and that's whenever they told us, that it was cancer. Most likely, our amazing neurosurgeon, was able to go in and do surgery the next day, because unlike most DIPG or DMG children, where the tumor isn't an actual tumor like you think of a ball of cells, it was described to us as you take a handful of sand, you throw it out into the grass, and then you go try and pick it up. That's essentially how DIPG and DMG spreads. Callie's had a ball, an actual tumor, with tendrils. and our neurosurgeon was able to take out, that big chunk, but he wasn't able to get it all. Even then, we were optimistic that maybe it was just a grade 1, maybe, he even used the word non-cancerous, maybe just a little chemo, and we would just kind of monitor her. And then a week later, the official diagnosis came after, all the pathology came back that it was a grade 4 tumor.
And God bless Dr. Volk, which he's still to this day, one of my heroes, Callie's neurosurgeon. I mean, he was with us the whole journey, but I specifically remember one of the most memorable things is when he kept saying low grade, low grade, low grade. He said that at least 5 times in that first meeting. It was almost like he was trying to. I think he knew. He's seen it enough. He's seen these MRIs and stuff. I think he knew, but I think he was trying to convince himself that because it was a mass, like she said, and he was like, I'm going to get as much as I can. He knew that there was a tumor there. I think he was thinking it was, not DMG or DIPG because of the mass. So I just remember saying low grade, low grade. And at that time, we didn't even know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
We were just as ignorant as everyone else with brain cancer. We didn't know. We always thought stages, and grade didn't mean anything to us at the time. So, but not to interrupt, but that was a huge thing that I really think Dr. Volt was like, he wanted to believe that it was, maybe a stage 2 or something, not glioblastoma, but.
I even remember whenever he came in to, deliver the news, he wrote it down on a piece of paper because I think he knew.
Well, he knew when you get told already that your child has cancer, you're only going to retain a very minute amount of information. You're not going to just get everything. But he's like, I'm going to write this down because you're not going to remember this word, but you will become very familiar with it, as we all have. It's just, how do you tell a parent like your child has a year to live?
Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, in his line, I'm sure he's done it before, but you're not going to believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't want to believe it. I don't think you allow yourself to believe it the whole time.
Prior to that, you see the St. Jude commercials and you see kids with leukemia, and it's absolutely horrible, but it has a 90% cure rate. Yes, they're going to endure horrible, horrible things, but you don't think that you're ever going to be told from the get-go, your child's going to die no matter what we do.
Yeah, I don't think most people realize it. So maybe for anyone who's watching this or listening in, we should just say, DMG and DIPG, these are almost 100% fatal childhood brain cancers. There are a handful of kids with DIPG who got it at an older age who are still around, but a majority of kids are under the age of 10. And just like with Callie, you're told a year. You have a year.
Yeah. 9 to 12 months, that's what you're told.
Yeah.
And you're given, when you're given that initial treatment options, it's this or this, and both are palliative care. They're not a cure. They're just buy some time, 6 months of good time, and I'm sure we'll get more to that. But to talk about Callie, other than cancer, which was unfortunately 20% of her life, or 25% really, from the get-go, that kid she had the ability, which I don't have to get super emotional, but she just had the ability to just light up a room. And that's where the idea for keeping a light, the nonprofit she just would, as soon as she came in there, you could not help but just smile. That kid drew attention like any other kid I've ever seen. It was amazing. Complete strangers. She just had that little wave and a thumbs up and a smile. All of her doctors and nurses, they just loved it. It was incredible to watch, be her father, just be around her.
I've told this story before, but at the playground one day, some little boy, they were playing on the play set, and he kind of pushed her and kind of, moved, get out of my way. And Callie was just kind of like, oh well, and it's just like, the world needs more of that.
It does.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Well, in light of, recent events, even more so, it's like, I remember thinking in that moment, like, she's too good for this world. Like, this is how everybody should be. Everybody should be more like Callie.
I was thinking about her today too, like what you just said, Justin, about her, the light. I didn't meet her, but I feel like I did, just from all the stories I've read from you guys and everything. But the world just feels so heavy and so dark. And there was a light about her. There was just this, even in the little videos that you've shared with me and everything. And just real
Yeah.
quick, this is the first book y'all published
Mhm.
about her, The
Mhm.
Optimistic Angel, and that's her. It tells, it tells the story as you endured it, which I think is so powerful, and it just is so real. It's like you don't need to add anything to it. The story itself is just intense. You touch on every aspect. You talk about Callie, you talk about what it's like being her parents, you talk about her sister Cora and what it was like for her. You talk about how some of your people in your circle didn't know exactly how to behave and be around you. So, can y'all talk about some of that?
Absolutely. It really just, and Haley was the genius behind that. Not I. She was writing that kind of as soon as Callie got diagnosed. It's when it's really started. She just said, I have to get this off my chest, and she started writing. And as I was reading it, she wasn't posting any of it on Facebook. And I said, you have to put this out there. This has such a potential to help not only you, but because you feel so alone. That is one thing that it was from the get go. Like when you have a child that has terminal cancer, you're isolated. Your friends and family are there trying to be helpful, but they just cannot relate. So Haley just writing that stuff and sharing it with me as a fellow another cancer parent, like if I remove myself and I were reading this and my child also had cancer, it was like I get that. I've been there. I remember when it happened. It was just so helpful, even for me, being it was my child that she was talking about, but I just seen a potential to help other people. So that's how it started. And I said, you have to put this out there. She said, well, they're going through it too. You have to start writing. I'm like, I'm terrible. I'm not. So I just started doing it, and I was like, well, if it's terrible, oh well, because it's helping me, you know.
Right.
So that's how that kind of started, and it just as we went on, it flowed out, and that was kind of our, I guess, grieving before we lost her because we knew she was going to die, and just keeping that hope with her optimistic nature. She never complained throughout treatment. She just
Yeah.
always with the thumbs up every time. You know, it just was crazy how it unfolded.
I think it helped a lot of things. We originally did it because I know that, like he says, reading somebody else's words that you can relate to, I know always meant a lot to me. So, getting that off of my chest, helped me. And then I always say, I don't care if one person or a million people read it. If one person is affected by it, if one person says, wow, it makes me feel a little less alone, then it was worth it. Um, and then a final note on that, I guess it kind of, like he said, a lot of people didn't know, even our closest friends and family, a lot of them didn't know how to navigate what we were going through. So it's almost like it helped us here. This is what's happening right now. Like, read our words, and that should help you figure out what we need from you.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a tough thing. Obviously I've never lost a child, so I can't say that I know what it's like. I can't put myself in your shoes, but I can imagine, and that's all I've got is my imagination, and I can't imagine there's a pain worse than
Yeah.
losing your child. And you saw your parents go through that, Haley, when your 2-year-old sister died, and I'm sure that was, I know from reading your stories from both of your perspectives, that was horrible for you too. 22 is way too young to die. Um, but you watched your parents go through that, and then Haley, your mom, watched you
Mm-hmm.
also go through that. I mean, I can't even imagine what that was like for them. But your friends don't know what to say because if
Right.
you
You
haven't
don't.
experienced it, what do you say?
Right.
And maybe we need a book from you on that. You're
Well, and each moment was different, and every day is different, and people are different, so it just, and we don't hold anything, we don't hold anything against anybody, or we don't have bitter
No,
feelings. It's
absolutely
just
not. I don't expect anyone to say I know. Even people that have lost their child, like you deal with it completely
right.
different. Not everybody
Absolutely.
that lost their child to cancer wrote a book. not everybody that lost their child to cancer started a nonprofit,
Right.
and they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't.
Right.
If that helps you, that's what you need to do.
Absolutely.
I've said that 10 million times. I tell myself that every single day. Like, you have to take care of yourself first, or you cannot help anyone else. If you're not right with what you're dealing with, you're not going to be useful to anyone else,
Yeah.
including your spouse, your children, or anyone, other parents. If
Right.
I'm not happy or feeling good about what I'm doing, then I'm not. Maybe I will, but I don't think it'll be good for me, and I don't think it'll be good for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
What was in those last few weeks, what was it like? I know she was at home, right?
She was.
Yeah. So what was it like for y'all and for Cora? Cora was so little. What was it like for your family during that time?
Cora, from the start and even still now, she's very just kind of rolled with it. You hate to say that she's doing well. She is overall, like, but just very nonchalant about it. Like, it just very accepting, I guess. She still tried to involve Callie. When Callie was eating nothing but ice cream, Cora would insist, like, if I, said, oh, wait, give me a second, I'm going to go feed Callie. Like, she would run to the pantry, grab the sprinkles. She'd pick out her sprinkles to put on Callie's ice cream. Like, just always, she kind of reversed roles and kind of became the big sister.
Absolutely.
Just always looking out for her, always caring for her. We had a little seat that was very close to the ground that reclined because, at that point, Callie didn't have any trunk control. She couldn't hold herself up. She couldn't sit in a regular chair. So we would put her in that, and Cora would just spread her toys out around her, and she would talk to her and just include her in her play however she could. And she's still very much that way. She'll say stuff right after Callie passed. She would talk about her like, I have Callie, Mom. She's a fairy. She's in my hand. She's right here. Look, Mom. And then she would, point like across the room and be like, oh, there she goes. And even now she's got little pillows that she sleeps with many a nights, shaped like Callie. And she talks about her every day.
Oh, that's
Yeah, Cora just handled it like such an adult. I don't know if it was anything that we done or just her nature. It really was amazing to watch her process everything, and we didn't hide anything from her. Like, we felt like we were going to have this conversation when she's get older. We'd show her everything, like explain to her as an adult would deal with it. And I think that helped her kind of understand everything. Now, obviously, she doesn't completely understand exactly what happened, or I mean, she knows that her big sister is in heaven, and we talk about it every day, and we want to keep her memory fresh. But it was last few weeks. I mean, we tried to take Callie out as much as we could at that time. She was completely disabled at that point, and it was very difficult taking her. We got to go to the beach. We did our Make-A-Wish trip like within 2 weeks of her passing, which hospice, she was on hospice at the time, and they said, you can't take her out of the state. And I said, oh, we're taking her out of the state. We're taking her.
Well, yeah, they actually arranged to where we had another hospice company in Georgia, actually, where we went connected, and they, got everything, extra oxygen that we needed, the extra medicine. They made sure that we were like completely set and able to.
Yeah, and anything, I don't want to sound like I was talking bad about them.
Well, that was the palliative care team
Right.
at Children's Hospital. Our hospice company was fighting
They
for
were
us
amazing.
to go.
They were
They
amazing.
were incredible.
Yeah, that's good. She was 4 by
She
then.
was 4.
Yeah. So, and on the Make-A-Wish trip, was she aware of what was happening?
Well, so that's one of the things, with DIPG and DMG kids, everything gets taken from them, their voice, their walking abilities, their abilities to swallow, but everything is still intact. They can see, and they know what's going on around them. So Callie, even, the morning that she died, she was still puckering her lips to give me a kiss and doing her best, because it steals their smiles too. And she'd still just do her, give everything she had to just give that little smirk that she could still give. So yeah, I think, and again, like we said, Callie was always simple. She was always happy wherever you put her, whatever she was doing. So on our Make-A-Wish trip, she loved to be surrounded by people, and that's what she got. You know, we went to a restaurant and they treated us like royalty there.
Yeah.
Somebody sitting beside us saw our family and went and bought a gift card for the girls to go to the toy store across the street, which they spoiled us. We didn't need the gift card because
Yeah,
they've already given us so much. Like we just
looking
were
back
spoiled.
3.5 years
And
later
she,
now, ironically, we have moved to where we went on our Make-A-Wish.
mm-hmm.
I think that is crazy, but and we talked about that in the book about how we wanted to move up here. But it was just so simple, and they were like, "Are you sure you want to go to northern Georgia, middle of nowhere?" I'm like, "Yes," because that's what we always did.
What she loved.
That's what she knew, and
Yeah.
she was such a simple little girl. She didn't want Disney World. She just wanted to go be around some people that
would love her,
that loved her
mm-hmm.
and made her the center of attention. That's what
she
we got, and it was amazing.
And the beauty of all the nature there, like, where you're sitting right now, behind you, all those
in the hot, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience.
And he would, I mean, she was what, 40 something, I think 47 pounds, and he picked her up and
I lugged her down to the waterfall, up the side of the mountain. Yeah, just like we always did,
And you could just tell how content she was. You could just see it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess what you just said is another thing that I don't think everyone is really realizes what you said is like basically these kids are trapped in their bodies, inability to talk, and but they are there. They're there. They just can't say anything. Yeah. And eventually even their ability to breathe gets taken from them, which is just wretched. But we're all three of you there with her at that last moment.
Yes, we were. We were holding her on the couch. Cora was playing. We had some of our videos playing. We would connect the computer and watch all the little videos of her over the years. And so that was playing in the background. And we just talked to her and loved her and held her until she took her last breath.
And that's something that I never wanted to sugarcoat with people. We talk about how peaceful it was, and it was a great moment, and I'll never forget it, obviously. But just seeing your child just take their last breath, I can't explain how horrible a parent having to do that, to hold your child while they gasp for breath and give them morphine so that they calm themselves.
That was the other thing. It was like, I felt like it was time to give it to her, give her morphine or give her the Ativan.
Well, you felt guilty.
But you feel guilty.
Everything you're doing, you want to save your child's life. You want to keep them alive. But then again, do you want her to,
you want her to be comfortable, and you
could tell that she was struggling. It can't explain the mindset of just the whole process was having to just see that. It's
overwhelming. Cannot imagine. Yeah, no, I don't wish that on anybody, and I hate that you all endured that. I want to real quick point out this book too, because this was Living Broken, Justin, your memoir. The first time that I read it, I had to take breaks every so often from reading it, because talk about a very raw look into the reality of grief and loss and pain, and y'all have had it in so many ways with Callie and your sister and just your dad, so much loss. And this book you wrote, Justin, which was published by our other imprint, Ashland Inc. It's really powerful and a hard thing to read because it's just so real. You just lay it all out, this like, you're living, but you're living broken. Do you want to talk just a little bit about the memoir?
Sure. So once again, she kind of encouraged me. I was writing it just to help myself grieving my child. And I was like, I just have all this stuff that I never really dealt with. I mean, physically and mentally, emotionally, it was like, I don't think people are going to believe this if I put this down in one book. Like, there's no way that somebody can have this many things happen to them within such a short period. I mean, it was like, even when I reread, I'm like, that really happened? It feels like we talk about this all the time. Like, we have eras of our grief and just, I don't know what other term to use, but it's like our trauma that we had experienced, like both of us. It was just, I still replay it. I just reread it and I was like, that's hard to believe that at that point I was pretty well adjusted, but then this happened and I went to another level, and then it just kept getting worse and worse. It's almost scary to think like what's going to happen next.
Gosh.
But then again, after Callie passed, it was I almost become at peace with it because I'm like, well, I don't think that anything really much worse can happen. I still have Cora, but it's like certainly we have to go up from here. So that was kind of the inspiration. I think that I dealt with and am dealing with most of it pretty well. I think I have my outlets and we have each other still, and to go through what we have been through and still be here together and doing what we can to help others, I think is pretty remarkable.
It's actually kind of miraculous, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't. A lot of people just it. Don't make it, and here y'all are still going strong. And this leads me to I want to talk a little bit about Keeping a Light, your organization, Keeping a Light for Cali. And we'll have the website on the YouTube screen, but if you're just listening, it's keepingalight.org. And I will encourage people to go there and donate. Do y'all want to talk about why you started it and what you do?
Yeah. So Justin actually came up with the idea while Callie was in brain surgery. We didn't even really know, like you hear about nonprofits, but you think about big, nonprofit corporations and stuff. And he had already like drafted out the name of it, what we were going to do, how it was going to work. And I was just like, what is this? I don't even know what this is. And, when he just knew, how desperate and lonely and just alone we felt in that moment, and that you just wanted somebody to help you. And he just knew that he didn't want other people to feel that way if there was something that he could do to help. Obviously, the brakes kind of got pumped on it. When we found out Callie's diagnosis, we needed to be there for her. But after her passing, it was kind of just one of those things. And I'll be honest, like I am so thankful, and we do it to help people, but in turn, it also helps us. It heals our hearts every time we get to say her name. Every time we get to do something that it's like, Callie would have loved that.
Anytime when we got the chance, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we've got the chance to meet so many amazing kids with cancer. I mean, that sounds bizarre. Like I got to meet a kid with cancer. Most people run the other way.
Yeah.
Our own family ran the other way. Most of them. It's probably the normal thing to do, but we're running straight in towards it because we've seen it, we know it, and we know how desperate those parents are. So that's kind of where it was pointed. My original idea, which we don't get to do it too often because most people, like I say, they want to keep to themselves, which that's great. I understand that. And whatever you need to do, like I said earlier, that's what you need to do. But there are the occasional few that want to surround themselves with other families. So getting to connect and meet, that was the original idea. Okay, I'm going through this. You understand me. That's going to be helpful for you. Oh, there's this other family that is in this area that we can kind of like, hopefully, create a network. Basically, and we have families all over the Southeast.
I have about at least 3 moms that we text almost weekly and just kind of check in on each other.
Are these all DIPG, DMG parents?
One of them, well, 2 of them are, and then one of them is osteosarcoma. Her little girl passed away. But yeah.
Yeah, and Keeping Light, we originally wanted to do just DMG, DIPG, but it's unfortunate. Well, fortunate, I guess, that it's not that many around, and it's such a short window. We just kind of just do any childhood cancer, 18 and under is who we try to connect with.
Well, they're all bad, as you mentioned earlier. That nobody
Yeah.
wants a kid to have cancer. I just think with this one, I guess in particular, maybe Justin, you mentioned this in your memoir. I can't remember, but I mean, way back in the 1960s, even Neil Armstrong's daughter died of DIPG, and we really have not progressed at all.
Yeah, the treatment is exactly the same,
Mhm.
which is some radiation initially, and then some oral chemos that aren't even for brain cancer. They're lung cancer.
Sadly, most of the funding for it is coming from parents who have lost their child, or parents whose child has already battled cancer. And we have some of our dearest friends, she's okay right now, but she's battled neuroblastoma 3 times already. They just started their own foundation in the midst of waiting for repeat scans. They are raising money to help other families.
Mm-hmm.
It helps us, it gives us a purpose, but it's disheartening at the same time
And
that's
just
Of a
simple things.
burden for
Yeah.
parents.
right.
That's why I'm constantly call to action here. If please, people, join forces with us, become allies, because I don't have a child with cancer. So even if you don't have a child with cancer, you can still get involved. Do advocacy. Go with me to Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
Just at least get on the phone and call your representatives and donate your funds. We're right here in the midst of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And what I always tell people is our children are more precious than gold. So donate your gold to save their lives. It's not really all that hard. And I've heard people get really upset and say things like on social media, stop saying thoughts and prayers. Well, I don't agree with that. You can send thoughts and prayers, but also open your wallet and do something. If you don't think thoughts and prayers are a good thing, I'm fine with that. Donate these.
Right. Do something. Tell somebody's story. I mean,
Yeah,
just telling.
share a post, do
Right.
something. Yeah, I mean that just can trickle so far, in which we've seen that with
Mm-hmm.
Callie's story and with the
Mm-hmm.
foundation. Just like she said, that one person really took it to heart, and if they tell someone,
Right.
it can grow. So it's I
Yeah.
think we're making some progress there. We do what we say about 20% of our proceeds for the year will be donated to research every year, because that is a very important thing. Like we touched on, the research for DIPG DMG has not changed.
Mhm.
It will not change unless we keep donating to research. We like to go with the Vitanza lab in Seattle because Dr. Vitanza is a superhuman, in my opinion. I mean, he's amazing, and I think if there is going to be some kind of stride made in the next 20 years, that's going to be the guy that does it. You can't
Okay.
say how
Well,
thankful we are to the work that man is
yeah.
doing in his lab.
Our Callie's oncologist actually reached out to them after her first scan post radiation, and so they kind of helped develop her treatment plan, and they were able to do it where we didn't have to travel there, but he still, they discussed her at their tumor board. So we're always forever grateful to them, and I just think they're doing amazing work. Like you said, if somebody figures it out, I know ONC201 just got FDA approved, which is amazing. And I really think they're going somewhere with the CAR T. It's just the funding has to be there.
Well, some of those clinical trials, like we talked about before, initially you're given standard of care or standard treatment, which is some radiation and some oral
possibly
chemo.
An oral chemo, yeah.
And then you're giving these radical clinical trials, which may have potential, but when you see the stats, 1 in 9 children in the last trial, because they can't afford to do more than that, you're like, what am I subjecting my child to?
Well, and when you find out you have to uproot your family, change your whole life, you can't work, they're going to go into, like you said,
it's just impossible decision.
Right.
Do I try to? How do you make that decision? And unfortunately, no strides will be made unless some parents take option B. We didn't take option B, and of course we think, what if we would have taken option B? Would it have helped?
By the time we got to that point, Callie was already too sick. You have to qualify for clinical trials. They have to be healthy enough. And she was too sick by the time we realized that, the treatment that we were doing had just failed to the point that
she wouldn't have survived.
She wouldn't have been able to handle the treatment.
Right. Well, so I would encourage anybody to just go to your website, keepingalight.org, make a donation, because like I've said this over and over again, I do advocate. I go to DC in February and lobby. I'll be back next week at Cure Fest. I'm willing to do what it takes to advocate for these kids where the government is concerned. But I've always said you cannot put your hope and faith in the federal government alone. It's going to be philanthropy. So you want to donate to valid research that's going to make a difference, donate to keepingalight.org and let those funds go to help that research that's happening there, because maybe we'll see some breakthroughs. I hope and pray. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite things in the world. Because this book right here,
Yeah.
Callie Gator and the Magic of Kindness. I read this book all the time. I'm a big children's book aficionado. And Callie Gator, I know you can't see all the things I have hanging up in my office. Well, you can see I've got Callie Gator
Here.
here. But I just love this book. It's not about cancer. It's not even really about Callie and Cora, but it is. So,
Mhm.
Haley, you wrote this book, beautifully illustrated by Stella Patrick. Do you want to talk a little bit about Callie Gator?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say I think the illustrations, they are by far the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I can take absolutely zero credit for that. Estella is just amazing, and I'm forever
She's
indebted.
magic. She's magic.
Beautiful work.
It is
Yes.
amazing.
But the idea for Calligator, so that was Callie's nickname. We're from Louisiana, and her nanny gave her that nickname as a baby. She just started calling her Calligator, and it kind of stuck. And so, when I was thinking about writing a children's book, obviously there was no question who the character would be. And then Cora, as far as the Cora chickens, when she was a baby, obviously our last name is Dickens. She could not say Dickens, so she would say her name was Cora Chickens. So there you go. She's a chicken. And like you say, the book is not about Callie, but it totally is. Every word of that is just phrases that she would say, things that she loved, things that make us think of her. Just everything in it is her and her kindness.
Can I brag on you for a little bit?
Yeah, do that. Do that.
Everything in that book is an Easter egg. Every little nuance and painting and everything is an Easter egg. Everything in there is directly something that Callie said or did or liked.
Well, I think it's extra incredible of Estella because she picked up
and she captured it.
Yes.
But I mean, if you knew Callie in person and you read that book, like you really knew her like we knew her, you would know every little thing in there is an Easter egg. It's just, it's brilliant writing, Haley. I'll reread it. It's great.
It's very uplifting. It's very colorful, and just like little surprises throughout of like Cora's art is in it, sprinkled in a few pages, but it's all just uplifting and just sweet. And her little catchphrase, "Happy smile, hey," which sometimes I tell myself that on bad days, be like Callie, happy smile. And I also want to just say this too. I feel like I'm modeling all of these books here, but this was our very first coloring book to publish at Velocity, and it's filled with coloring pages from the book. So Estella got to do her first coloring book this way, but now she's done several.
Yeah.
And I will have some of these at CureFest to pass them out to kids. And I love the coloring book, but I also just want to brag for just a minute on Cora, because y'all aren't the only authors in the family, because Cora very generously, I was bragging about this book just this morning, Stories Around the Campfire. This book is a collection of stories and art done by the children of the cancer community. Some of them are kids who are survivors of childhood cancer, and some of them are siblings, like in Cora's case. Do you want to chat just a minute about the two things that are in there? Because one is from you, actually, Haley, but the other is from Cora.
Yeah. Well, I'll speak briefly on mine, but just when you emailed me that idea that you had, it just instantly, Callie, and you might have to tell that story, but we associate s'mores with her. One of the last things she ate that was solid food was on our Make-A-Wish. We were sitting around a fire, and they had left, s'more supplies at our cabin that we were staying in. And Justin made her one, and she took a big old bite. She always loved chocolate. She was obsessed with chocolate. So that's kind of where that story came from. And segueing into the next part of that is when we after she died, we took an RV trip just to kind of get away as a family and just kind of regroup and just figure out what we were going to do with our lives without her. And we were on our last night before we were going to return home, and we were sitting outside of the RV, and we had some more supplies. And Justin's not a big sweets fan, so he's like, for him to eat one, he does it
I ate
for
it
her.
with Callie, for Callie, and then
Right.
coming back from that RV trip, like, it was such a great trip. You know, we got away, we got to see some things we hadn't seen before, and it started getting okay, back to normal life. We're going to have to go back to work eventually. You know, here we are back in Louisiana. It was kind of starting to get a little depressing having to go back home and back to here we are as a family of 3 now. And I had that s'more and I said, I'm going to eat it for Callie. When I bit into it, the field literally, like, timing perfect. The field lit up with fireflies. And ironically, Haley's cousin, Nanny Sam, who gave her the nickname Calligator, comes full circle, whispered to Callie right before she passed to send us fireflies as a sign.
Oh my gosh, I might start crying on that one. Yeah, that's
You can't
beautiful.
make. I'm not a big believer in signs and all that, but you couldn't deny that one. It was just, I mean, so the s'mores thing is definitely special to us, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I love that that was in there. And then Cora wrote cute, super cute story too. You want to tell about Cora's story?
Yeah. Do you want to tell her about your story?
Oh, is she there?
She just
Yeah, she just walked up. Look, walk around by Daddy.
come here.
So I recorded her one afternoon because I told her that Miss Dana Sue was writing a book and that she would love for her to be in it. And so she told me the story about Princess Callie and Princess Cora walking through the Enchanted Forest and their little adventure that they had. Do you remember what was on the trees? What was on the trees? Oh, right now. Popsicles and candy canes. Yeah. And they found a cute little kitty. Do you remember your kitty cat's name? Yep. What was it?
Snowflake.
Snowflake.
Like,
Yeah. So Cora is now an author too.
yes, yes.
Extremely
And
creative.
an illustrator. Yeah. She's a really good
Extremely
drawer.
creative, and she's a natural storyteller.
Yes. Cora, your art was in the Calligator book.
You hear that? Yeah.
Yes, and it was so beautiful, including the rainbow that you made for that. And then this book, you wrote a great story. As soon as I read it, I was like, I want to go walk through that forest myself.
Well, and in speaking with Cora, we have gifted each one of her, like each year, her classroom a Calligator book. And as we were talking earlier with her and just how she, talks about Callie, she is very nonchalant, like I said. And so I always kind of tell her teachers, because a lot of children haven't dealt with death or they don't understand that kind of stuff. And so I always tell them, like, she's going to talk about her sister. She's going to tell you she has a sister and this is what happened and this is where we're at, just so that and can just kind of be sensitive to it. So anyways, they had days where they got to go to the front of the class and like share a picture of their family and stuff. Well, Cora's teacher this year remembered that I had gifted her that book. And so she let Cora sit at the front of the class and they read Calligator together as a classroom. And I think that meant a lot to Cora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or do you want to tell us anything about your memories of Callie?
Do you remember anything
You
about
want to talk
Callie?
about Callie?
Y'all like to swim in that pool together?
Mm-hmm.
Like to sleep in the bed with her?
You remember her?
Hot tub.
Oh,
Yeah.
the hot tub.
You
Yeah.
remember her? Callie had this thing where when Cora was a baby, she had really, really curly hair. But Callie never got in trouble other than touching this one's
She
hair.
had to touch her
If
hair.
she walked past Cora,
and
she
Cora would
would
get
just-
so mad.
and it was not mean intentional, but she
No.
would just
She had to
kinda
like rub it.
grab it and rub it. But that was one of the most memorable things that she
Stop.
just couldn't help herself but touch her hair. And we would fuss at her, stop touching sister's hair. She doesn't like it.
Well, and speaking of that too, the other little thing that we'll bring up is the happy smile hey also came from Cora as a baby, because she was a little bit grumpy sometimes and there was nothing you could do to make her happy. And that's where Callie would come up to her and she would just talk. She'd tell her, happy, smile, hey. And that was her way to try and cheer Cora up.
Even with us, though, I mean, she would
Oh
say
yeah,
that
she said it
if
all
one
the
of us
time,
were
but
sad
that
or
was
crying, it was just her little way of.
that was. Mhm.
And we talk about that in some of the books.
Mhm.
Maybe Optimistic Angel, I definitely talked about it in mine. Like Callie always had this way of putting the important things before. It's almost like she categorized everything. This is important. This is next important. Like, so she spoke that way.
Mhm.
So she would always use her nouns and then describe them after.
Mhm.
So that statement right there was like her way of be happy first, then you're gonna smile, and then the hey was just like I'm here, you know, or to bring your attention to the whole thing. It was just
Yeah.
so funny.
I
It just
totally get it. Yeah.
This is like exactly if you could describe her past personality, that catchphrase that she would say all the time. That was it. You know,
Mhm.
it's funny because it's on the back of the shirts that you're wearing, she's wearing,
Yes.
and I put that on the back on purpose because it's like people are going to ask like and be confused with the exclamation points. Like, what does that mean? And it's such an opportunity to talk about my child, you know, to
Yes.
talk about our foundation. And as soon as I start talking about it, like, well, it's a sad and a happy story, and you know, if you're willing to hang around, it's worth listening to.
Yeah.
But I love that, and that's our motto, you know, for the whole organization.
Like you say, when you're having a bad day, just think about that
Yeah.
phrase, and
I do that.
Yet another story
Yeah.
about that one, and in my book I talk about it, and we were able to meet Joseph Thompson.
Mhm.
He had DIPG at 22. He passed away. It's been now almost 2 years now, and when we got the chance to meet him, we met him through the organization. I kind of befriended him, but he got one tattoo.
Oh yeah.
You know, when he's 23, he was not a tattoo guy, but he
and
knew
he'd
that
only
I
known
was.
us like a few months,
And he had just met us, and he said Callie was such a hero of his, and he knew about the phrase and everything, and he went and got that tattooed on his forearm. That was his only tattoo that he ever got.
I love that story. That's great. Yeah.
Yet another one that we were able to meet because of, you know, Callie.
Yeah, like the way you say that, I say that too all the time. Like, oh, I've gotten to meet so many, I can't even count how many kids with cancer I've had the joyful pleasure of meeting over the past several decades. And it does sound weird to say it that way because you don't want kids to be sick, but these kids they change your soul, these kids.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just something about them. And for me, I just always have to tap into my faith and because it's the only way that I can get through it and other people maybe do things differently. For me, I have to just when I get a cure fest, I just try to imagine all those kids up in heaven not having cancer. Especially when we go to this shoe memorial. And I know last year I saw Callie's shoes at the shoe memorial, and it was that last year?
They've been there for a couple of years, but yeah, that was last year that you sent that to me. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I get the years all mixed up, but I remember just when I was walking through and I saw them, I was like, oh my gosh, there's Callie. No, but I look at all of those empty shoes and my first thought is I just get really mad. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair for y'all. I don't think it's fair for those kids that they didn't, Callie's forever for. But then I have to, just for myself, I have to just picture, okay, where she is now. She's not sick. She's walking along on golden streets, and that's the only way I can do it. And I do picture her there, and I carry her light with me, and I just want y'all to know that I do that. And anytime I get frustrated, because Bellastery is not easy, not easy to do all these books, but anytime I start just feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do it, I literally will tell myself happy smile hey, and I'll think of her. So just please know your daughter is in my heart, in my soul. Bill loves her. I wish he could be here today talking with you, but
Yeah.
we'll make a trip to Georgia. I know we will.
We're coming your way one day. So
Okay. I know because you have to come to Grounds and Gold, the coffee shop in
I know.
Yes,
Yes.
we do. Well, she actually has some.
We have friends in Houston as well.
Friends in Houston
that actually hooked us up with that gala where we met him.
Okay.
So,
yeah. And then her cousin that we were talking about, Sam, that when it gave Callie the Calligator nickname, she's moving to Houston as well. So we'll have a few
we have a lot of Texas people we love.
And we have some friends from high school that live in the Fort Worth area. actually. So
Okay, well, I look forward to that. That's going to be fun. So, I want to thank you both for taking time out and chatting with me. Thank you for all the books that you've shared with us, and I know there are going to be some more in the future. I think there are going to be some more Calligator books that we look forward to. Callie's light's going to keep on shining. I encourage anyone who's listening in, please go visit keepingalight.org, find out how you can buy the books, and make a donation. And let's find a cure for these diseases. Thank y'all so much.
thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Dana
much.
Sue. It's so good to talk to you.
Thank you again to Haley and Justin and special guest Cora for visiting with me today. I encourage you all to go visit their website, keepingalight.org, and help support them in their mission to bring an end to DIPG and DMG. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.